Hello lovely people, and welcome to my third video around mental health awareness. This one is around self-harm. So I might have to tell you that this can be quite triggering, and I talk about this out of personal experience. So a lot of the times there will be trigger warnings based on issues surrounding inflicting pain and stuff, and this isn't one to give ideas or anything to people who are dealing with the issue. It's more to give awareness and breaking the stigma around self-harm, and for people to know that there is help available, that there are people who are in the same boat as you and you understand the pain that you feel and such. So I'm going to get started. So what is self-harm? Self-harm is one of those things where we hurt ourselves in a way to cope, and so it's for a lot of people it's a way to release pain. So for myself, when I self-harmed, it's one of those things where I could save my blood, or however I choose to self-harm, and because you have your cliche only a slice on the wrist, and that's self-harming. There are many ways of self-harming, but when I save my blood or when I hurt myself in other ways, I know that I'm alive. I can feel other pain instead of the pain associated to do with mental health and other issues that are really bringing me down. So self-harm is a non-suicidal behavior that allows a person to feel a little bit better than what they did, but in the end it's a way of coping. When a person self-harms, they don't feel that they can reach out for help, or they may have tried to reach out and they don't get the end results that they're after, as they can feel quite despairing about it. A lot of the time it can be associated with depression, eating disorders, these are issues within myself: depression, eating disorders, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, issues surrounding family breakdown, relationships, sexuality, homelessness. It could be because a person is being bullied or assaulted, abused. It could have to do with their upbringing. Self-harm has many factors to it, and unfortunately it's just one of those things that we do to be able to get through the situation. So when a person self-harms, speaking from experience, it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm seeking out for attention because I'm not getting it. No, it's not. It's not seeking out for attention or anything. And I hate when people are like, oh, you're attention seeking and stuff. Why don't you just slice your wrist and that's it? Like, go kill yourself and stuff. No, it has nothing to do with that. And I get quite worked up about it when people say that, and that you're just emo and stuff, and it's a phase, you'll get over it, when realistically it's nothing like that. It's actually something that is quite serious, and it can take a fair bit to break a person to the point where they feel that the only way to deal with their issues, the only way to cope, is in the form of self-harm. Again, in this video there will be a lot of self-disclosure, because it is an issue that I'm quite passionate about helping other people with, and it's something that I've dealt with and still dealing with from time to time. So how it starts for me in particular, I grew up self-harming. So I was in my first year of high school when I started. And there was a lot of family issues that were happening, and a lot of issues at school and stuff, and I was a straight A student and stuff in year 7 and stuff, and things were great, but when there are things like fighting in the family and stuff and other issues, it makes you feel that that you don't belong, and you can't reach out to your family with these issues, and you don't know how to cope. And for me, I didn't talk about my issues with my family, but there was a lot of them. And if my family watch this, then it's going to be a bit of a surprise, and I'm sorry that it comes out this way. But self-awareness, I'm strong enough to talk about these issues, and I'm also able to help others that are struggling with this kind of issue. So self-harm is maladaptive, which means that it may be helpful in the time being while you're actually doing it, but it's actually one of those things that is unhelpful, and it leaves you with scars, or however you hurt yourself, it can be permanent. If you're lucky, scars can fade, but if it's not superficial, then they can be there quite significantly. I know I've got quite a few scars on me, such as this one here. I've gone over that one quite a few times, and so the scar tissue is quite prominent. So when you explain to people like, oh, how did that happen? It's like, you have to feel the need to cover it up, and it's like, oh, it's a burn or something like that. But in yourself, you know that it's not. And for me, self-harm became quite addictive. And when a person self-harms, they don't do it in public and stuff. It's like, like I did it in a private space. So growing up, I mainly did it in my bedroom or in the bathroom when people went around breaking razors and stuff to self-harm. And that's how I started out. And whether it would be on a weekly basis or a daily basis, it literally became addictive. And I thrived on that kind of pain because there was just so much going on. I sought counselling at a young age for it, which was great, going through DBT, using distress tolerance to try and find other ways of coping. But unfortunately, this was short-lived. From there, when my mum found out that I was self-harming, she broke down in the counselling office and blamed herself a lot for it, which kind of didn't make the family dynamics any easier and stuff, and I do apologise for that. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, Mum, but it is still something that I engage in every now and then, but it might be in a different way, or such as excessive exercise, or through other means of self-harm. But I have the knowledge and the supports and stuff to be able to do what I can before getting to that point, reaching out to services, coping strategies, stuff like that. So why self-harm? As I've said, a lot of people get to a point where it is really, really hard, and they don't know how to reach out, or they just feel that like it's scary. Like, it's one of those things where you're afraid to talk about it, and you feel you're just going to get judged about it. And when someone self-harms, you will notice that they might wear longer clothing in summer and stuff, like, so to cover up their scars, or wear a lot more makeup and stuff. It's just, there's a lot of shame associated with it for the person as well. And it can be, like, the feelings associated could be disgust, blame. They may have temporary relief from it, but then it's like, why did I do this? I have this scar. But then if they're addicted to it, it's like, well, I can't stop. And there are times where it's very superficial and it's fine, but then there are other times where you actually may go too deep and you need medical attention. And that's scary, needing medical attention for something that you inflicted yourself. So again, when you're covered in scars and the school goes back to your parents and stuff, or whoever it is that sees it, tries to have that conversation with you, and you go into denial about it, they know what you're doing. But it can be hard to reach out to a person that is self-harming. So there are thought patterns around it. So depending on the situation, it could be that, like, I'm not good enough and everything that's happening, it's my fault, and the main reason for it. But technically, like, you may be like a small thing in the situation, like, things are happening around you and you will take it on yourself. But you need to know, when it comes to family violence and stuff like that, your parents are your parents. You shouldn't have to feel like the child has to be the parent. You shouldn't have to feel like you have to take control over the situation and try and make peace with your family, because it's not your issue that's happening. Or when you're being bullied and stuff like that, it can be hard to say, like, yeah, I'm being picked on at school when I don't fit in and stuff like that. And if it's about your sexuality, like for me, I find it hard to talk about my sexuality with family and stuff like that. And again, self-disclosure, and I'm sorry, Mum. But it's one of those things where it's your sexuality can be really, really hard to talk about. And I'm fine with friends and with support networks and stuff like that. But when you say that I'm not straight, and it's one of those things where you feel that you're going to be judged by your family, it can be really, really scary, and you take it on yourself instead. But there are ways that you can get help, even though you feel that it's just too hard. And there are times where it's like, yeah, I would just rather die. Again, I have to say trigger warning around this, because even though you may self-harm, and there are times where it gets so bad that, like, yeah, that's what you feel like is, I may as well just take my own life and stuff like that. It's not actually what a person is thinking at the time when they're doing it. There are many ways that a person self-harms. A few things that I have done could be self-inflicting pain, such as cutting myself, burning myself, restrictive eating and exercising, binge and purging. I was addicted to piercings for a bit, so having a new piercing every week was kind of a form of self-harm, because it's about the healing process and stuff. Repetitively banging yourself against things. You could be biting, bruising yourself, anything like that. It's about having a different kind of feeling when you feel so in crisis, in such high distress. So how do you reach out for help? How do you help a person that is self-harming? For me, it was very much the school did it. The school told my parents what I was doing and stuff, and I had to see a school counsellor, and I did not have a great rapport with the school counsellor because being underage, they had to tell my parents a lot, and that didn't make me feel great. So then I went and had a referral made and saw an external counsellor. So around the age of 12 or 13, I think it would have been. And so things that that you can do for a person who is in a state with self-harm, I guess, is just to be there for them. It's not easy for them to talk about, so just creating a safe space for them to talk to you and keep opening the conversation, allowing them to know that you are there to listen and you won't judge them. You just want to help them. You just want to support them. Keep an eye on them though, but not in a way that, like, you know, that they feel that you're on suicide watch and stuff like that. If you notice that things are getting out of hand, taking too many pills, going too deep in self-harm, social withdrawal, all that kind of stuff, it is very important that you may have to make the call, whether it's calling an ambulance, getting in contact with a mental health professional, taking them to a doctor. They won't like you for it, but unfortunately it needs to be done because it can have a serious result. So distress tolerance is really important when a person feels in crisis. And so things that I have done is create safety plans each time that I'm in crisis. And I still use them. You will notice the older that you get and the more that you implement them, the more insight you have around what's helpful and what's not helpful. So a distress tolerance plan, you write down what are your triggers to want to self-harm? What are the associated symptoms to it? Are you feeling depressed, down, not motivated? Does your skin cringe where you feel that you would self-harm and stuff? Do you feel that you're on edge? Are you rather teary? Do you have negative thoughts that are happening and stuff? So write down what the associated symptoms are to your triggers. So your triggers could be including things like seeing violence happening in the street, It could be content related with your studies, having certain conversations, engaging with certain people. It could be anything really. So if you are aware of your triggers, then you can figure out what the associated symptoms are to those triggers. Again, based on that, you will look at ways to help yourself. So what supports can you contact when you're feeling in such a way? So we want to be able to get yourself to a point where you can help yourself before feeling the need to engage in behaviours. We want to minimise and prevent ourselves from getting to a state where the only way that we can cope is by self-harming. So places like Reach Out, sane.org for information, 7 Cups of Tea, which is an online counselling, Headspace, Beyond Blue, calling the mental health team, which is quite a scary process, Lifeline, suicide callback service. There are a lot of places that you can contact for help, and speaking to a clinician about how you are feeling and stuff, and they'll talk you through ways of keeping safe. And then after you have your services and supports, like it could be a friend that can talk you through it, that kind of stuff. Write down, the next part of it is to write down things that you can do for yourself. So what activities can you engage in to distract yourself, to keep yourself busy, to delay and to minimize the intensity of the need to self-harm. So that could include things like going for a walk, being safe about that, by the way. If you have pets, cuddling up to your pets, they can be rather empathetic at times. Mine are snobs when I'm feeling in such a way, so it doesn't exactly help. Flicking rubber bands on your wrist, the elastic ones are a lot better because you do it enough, this thing actually gives you a similar sensation. Other things is holding ice against the area that you want to self-harm so that you're numbing it. That can help. Writing it out, so journaling can be a good way of getting your thoughts and your feelings out. Artwork, if you're creative like that. Speaking to a professional, either way, if it's if it hasn't worked within your support list, contact. If it's a reasonable time and organisations are open, going to a community centre or a youth centre or a health service and telling them that you're not safe, and they will be able to help you, whether it's having someone to talk to, going through a safety plan, talking about your issues, why you want to self-harm, that kind of stuff. And so just mindfulness, grounding yourself, putting down things that you enjoy doing as well, so that it gets to a point that you've exhausted all these options and hopefully you don't feel like self-harming. However, safety plans don't always work, and it is important that if you do end up self-harming, and I am in no way encouraging this, please be cautious about infection control. I'm a person that when it comes to self-harm, I like to make sure that it doesn't get infected, so I always implement first aid. Please, as soon as you do hurt yourself, if you can, I know it's so hard to say this, but get it checked by a doctor or someone so that you know that you haven't gone too far, that it's clean. Please don't go and overdose on pills and stuff, because in the long run for your kidneys and stuff, it's not very helpful. But yeah, always keep the conversation open with a person who is self-harming, because it is one of those things that it's very important. If the person doesn't feel supported or feel that they have anyone to go to when they are feeling distressed, that's when they will tend to end up hurting themselves. I know for me, it's more of a time at night when I would self-harm. So needing to know that even though it's after hours and stuff, there are always places that you can contact. For me, I can feel like an inconvenience on services and calling people and stuff because I feel in need. But you need to know that that's what they are there for. There are 24-hour services. So again, Kids Helpline, they are from the ages of 5 to 25. So even if you're not a child, you can still access them. Suicide Callback, Lifeline. It can be really, really scary to contact places like that because it's like, well, I don't want to kill myself, so please don't call an ambulance. But it's not about that. It's about talking yourself through it, through the process, and getting yourself to a state where you feel okay that you won't self-harm. Thank you for listening and watching this video, and it's one of those things that mean a lot for me, to be able to break down the stigma around certain issues like self-harm and stuff, anything related to your health, mental, physical, sexual health. I can talk about it all, and just be aware that when a person does this, they're not attention seeking. They actually really, really need help. Thank you. And yeah, likes, comments, feedback, and topics for the next video in the comments. And I look forward to hearing back from you and what you think about it. And yeah, you have a good one. And please, if you are in a state where you do feel in high distress, please do reach out. I'm experienced with self-harm and stuff, so even if you need to talk to me, then hit me up and we can have a chat. Cool. Peace out.